The roster decisions have just been announced. So in today's video, we're going to discuss the Seattle Sounders roster decisions for 2024. So next to me is the official newsletter announcement the Sounders have made for their roster decisions, and we'll just start with the top, which is the player options that they have exercised for 2024. So we got Josh Atencio, Xavier, Arreaga, where for many of you, you might not have known, it was already kind of reported before, today that his option was gonna be exercised. It was reported officially by reporters. We posted it as well. Comes to a little bit of a surprise, and then we'll obviously talk about it because, as I said in the previous video, regardless if he does get that option, if he doesn't get that option, I think either way he's gonna be leaving and or be sold. We got Castro, Yeimar, Paulo, Jackson Ragen, Paul Rothrock, Albert Rusnák, Dylan Tevez, and Andrew Thomas. And then with all these other players already having contracts for next season, Raúl, yes, is still on here, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're for sure going to be keeping him. He was already under contract. So this doesn't really give us any information. If they were going to axe his deal, they wouldn't put it out in this post. This wouldn't be the place they would be talking about Raúl Ruidíaz's deal. Then in regards to players that the options were declined for, so these guys are for sure gone. They're not going to be back for us next year, is Stefan Cleveland, Ethan Dobbelaere, and Obed. Biggest surprise probably of them all is Stefan Cleveland because, I spoke about in my video and kind of just fans in general have kind of gone back and forth of does Cleveland deserve to get the mantle from Stefan Frei because Stefan Frei is almost 40 years old. Yes, Frei, had a goalkeeper of the year season, which obviously he was completely robbed of either winning the award or at least being a finalist, but he is getting up there in age. Stefan Cleveland is a fair amount younger than him. He's not necessarily like young himself, but in goalkeeper years, he's significantly younger. So I guess we're just going to be moving on from him. Oh man, this is definitely going to be like a Tyler Miller 2.0 situation. I can kind of see it coming, but we'll see what ends up happening. Stefan Cleveland, I guess we're going to be going all in with Stefan Frei, and then once his time's up, we're just going to be looking for a new goalkeeper, or maybe Andrew Thomas or Jacob Castro get the mantle. That's kind of crazy to me. I think this is the biggest shock moment of like all the decisions is Stefan Cleveland's. Dobbelaere, I kind of spoke about maybe he should get a loan. We just decided, I guess we're not going to continue with him. And Obed, to put it really nicely, thank God. Thank God, seriously. Additionally, AB Cissoko, as I said already in the previous video, he was confirmed to be leaving. Stefan Frei, ignore that. It's already been reported by Jeremiah O'Shea, probably the #1 reporter when it comes to Sounder stuff. Frei's renewing. We're all good. Don't need to worry about that. Lodeiro, that's been confirmed for a while. Montero, that was my biggest preach in the last video. I would still keep him. And then Kelyn Rowe are as well. So these guys are all out of contracts, these players. From all of them, Sissoko's gone. Frei is renewed, so ignore that. Lodeiro's gone. Fredy and Kelyn, I think most likely Kelyn is for sure gone, but all because they're out of contract doesn't mean they can't have their deals renewed still. Like, they'll still put them on the table. I think they're going to leave possibly Fredy and Kelyn like as last minutes. Like, they'll see what they do in the transfer window. I know this might be a little complicated to understand, but I think they're going to see how the transfer window pans out, how they're going to be looking like in the forefront in regards to, because Kelyn Rowe can fill in for a lot of positions. He is a very plug-and-play player, honestly, these past couple of years. Originally, I thought we brought him in as a midfielder, but at this point, he can just pretty much play anywhere on the field except for the forward line. Fredy, I think we're going to see, depending on what happens with Raúl, what our game plan is going to be with him. I think if we sell Raúl, I think we're going to then keep Fredy then for another year. Likewise for Kelyn, if we're looking thin at like the outside back spots, I don't think we're going to be looking thin in the midfield like whatsoever. So I really wouldn't be worried about that. These two are still up in contention. I think these two, they could still possibly happen. I think Fredy's more likely than Kelyn's, but we've seen crazier things. So that's about it. On the bottom here is the roster as of now. Again, pretend Stefan Frei's name is like somewhere here next to Andrew Thomas or before Jacob Castro's. He is going to be there. Defense, I think we look pretty decently solid. Midfield, so many midfielders. And then, of course, Jordan and Raúl are the only two forwards. But as reported as well, I think there will still be some moves that will happen throughout the week, as it's not going to be until about next week where Weibel and Schmetzer are going to do their end of season press conference. So that's where we will see what like decisions will be completely made, where reporters can ask questions. Why did we let go of this person, that person? Why did we renew this person? Not that. So there'll still be some more moves in the next week. This is just initially what we've decided. I think some players that we should be keeping our eyes on still. Nico Moreno, I mean, was the one who broke the news about Arreaga. So let's go back to the beginning. He's the one who broke the news about Arreaga and basically was saying, I mean, if you read between the lines, and or he kind of just flat out said it, was it looks like we took Arriaga's option so we can sell him for actual money. Because if he's out of contract, he's a free transfer. I think Sounders wanted to make some money on the Arreaga deal because apparently there's a decent amount of MLS teams. Like I think he either said couple or handful of MLS teams that would still be interested in taking Arreaga, which makes sense. I mean, one, he's an Ecuador international. I mean, that's a big one. I mean, that's going to be big for jersey sales because Ecuador fans are freaking crazy in a good way, in a really good way. They're very passionate fan base. And then as well, we want to make some money off of it. So I still think Javi's going to be gone. So again, don't worry too much about that. I think he's for sure going to be leaving. In regards to other players, I think again, then the only other thing concern is still Ruidíaz, all because nothing was announced in here. I don't think guarantees still his place. I think Sounders are still going to try to look to offload him during this offseason. I think 100%. If not now, then over the summer when the European transfer market's open. I don't think a European team will want him, but I think Sounders are going to try to offload Raúl for some money because I doubt they're going to want to let him leave on a free because he does have, even though it's not much anymore compared to years past, but he does have some market value. He does have a smidge bit. Technically on Transfermarkt, he is valued at about $4 million. Would a team pay that much? I don't think so, but he is still valued at that. He still does have a bit of a transfer value. And so again, that would be the only other player I'd be looking at. So from all of these, Arreaga, I still think could be leaving. Ruidíaz, I still think could be leaving. I'm not guaranteeing that all because Fredy and Kelyn are out of contract, they will not be returning. And then obviously the biggest surprise is Stefan Cleveland. I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest talking point in this video. I mean, what do you guys think? Should there have been more players that we declined? I will say this was a bit underwhelming because I thought we would make way more chopping and changing decisions. I feel like we really took the safe route with a lot of this stuff. A lot of players that we just kept. A lot of people were not happy we kept Albert. I'm cool with us keeping Albert because realistically, I don't think we could lose 3 DPs. 3 DPs in one summer. I think 2 is probably like a fair, good amount to get rid of, it being already Nico's gone and Raúl might be gone. You know, I do think we did play it safe a little bit. I think we could have maybe, but from these options, now when I look at it, I really don't know who else we would have dropped. Albert would have been shocking because I'm just I'm talking to myself right now and thinking about, I was like, well, Albert, I wouldn't get rid of personally. I know a lot of fans disagree because I just like, when you think about it, guys, you can't get rid of 3 DPs in one window. Like, it's also just not very, like, healthy. It's not a very good ecosystem because then it feels like there's going to be a lot more pressure on you guys, like, on the team to, like, okay, we have to fill in 3 and then possibly 4 because it's still rumored that there's most likely going to be 4 DPs next season. 4 DP spots. That's going to be a lot to ask for any team to do that. So it's good to at least have one, like, MLS all-star caliber player, if I want to put it that way. So I really actually now it just was a bit underwhelming where I thought there would be more chopping and changing. But now that I see this list, maybe it wasn't super underwhelming. Obviously, as I said, I don't think this would have been the place where we would have been like, oh, Raúl is gone. He's going to stay. We will find that out, I think, throughout the window. And then same thing with Arreaga. I think those are just the main players that we're going to be looking at is Arreaga, Ruidíaz, and then one of these 2 in regards to will we renew Fredy or Kelyn? Because I just don't know who else we would possibly sell. Like a guarantee, obviously I spoke about in the video. I wouldn't mind if we chopped and changed one of our outside backs because Nouhou and Alex Roldan have super high transfer like value. And then with Obed Vargas, not because Obed's like a bad player. I need to find Obed somewhere here. Obed Vargas, maybe give him that shot in Europe because there's so many midfielders. I mean, look, Sota, he's right here. Leva, we kept him, which there was a lot of like, uncertainty with some fans because some Rapids fans have told me his loan wasn't super great. Some say he was fine, not really a big deal. At least he got a lot of minutes. As well, we have Josh. There's just so many. And then JP, will we drop Albert to the DM? Either way, that's like 4 or 5 center defensive midfielders. That's so many. I do think selling one of them might have to be the option. Selling one of them or loaning maybe 1 to 2 of them. It's one of those options. And I know at least with Obed, there's that European interest, so you could make money, like similar to like an Alphonso Davies, for example. Like Whitecap sold him to Bayern Munich for the set price, but if he plays X amount of games and wins X amount of trophies, which he did, and I think Obed could be in that same kind of boat, they get more money that's tacked on top of it. And that's like the same thing like Miguel Almiron, for example. They sold him for an X amount of money, but if he plays X amount of games for Newcastle, Atlanta United got more money from him. More successfully was the more money they got from him. So like it tacks on. Same thing with Brendan Aronson with the Philadelphia Union, and I can go on. So it could be a good way for the Sounders to get more cash for the possibility of having 2 to 3 DP spots open, depending on what MLS decides for next season, having an additional spot if we end up selling Raúl. Yeah, I mean, nonetheless, nothing insanely shocking. A lot of fans, like myself, were a little bit worried, like, there's going to be a big announcement for the Sounders. But honestly, a little underwhelming, not in a bad way now that I think about it. But in regards to biggest surprise of them all, Stefan Cleveland's gone. I mean, that basically answers the question of Frey's for sure going to be our number one then for at least the next 2 years. And the Sounders are just going to look for a new number one like they did when they transitioned from Geschmerning to Frey. They're not going to look within the team. And Stefan Cleveland could be as well. Stefan Cleveland maybe just didn't want to stay again as a backup. That's something I talked about in the video, that I don't know that Stefan Cleveland would be open to being a backup for another year, especially when his past three-year cameos, when Frey has been hurt, he's played really well for us and has been a clutch player for us. So I think that could be a part of it. I have no inside information, so this could be gibberish. I think a big one fans will be happy to see. Sorry, Eber, but it's Eber. I mean, fans really did not want to see Eber stay with this team for next season. So I'm actually a little bit happy about it as well, because Eber was such a dud. But nonetheless, boys and girls, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Was there anything that surprised you guys with the roster decisions? Do you think there's any players that you think the Sounders will possibly sell during the offseason? Because as I said, there's still a week left for us to make more contract decisions and whatnot. So we still could see Fredy, Kelyn maybe get their deals renewed. It's just as of now, they are out of contract. Nothing has happened for them. Will we see Arreaga be sold to an MLS team? Will Raúl end up staying with us and or be sold, or his contract be terminated? Because again, that's on the table. The Sounders have terminated somewhat high wage contracts, and that could maybe be the case for Raúl, just to free up that DP spot, and we just recoup the money somewhere else, because we know we have money. So nonetheless, boys and girls, my opinion only matters so much. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. We'll have more fun videos out. I have a video planned out where I'm going to actually go through all the best FIFA Ultimate Team cards in Sounders history, and then as well, the long-awaited kind of like wish list transfer targets the Sounders should look at during the offseason. That will be the next big video, and then probably like have a break during the holidays and stuff, because that's kind of the only big talking point video, unless like we have some massive transfer news that comes down where we sign Kylian Mbappe. Like, unless, okay, again, I was being sarcastic, but unless something crazy like that happens, that is what's planned, and I don't think I'm going to be doing much more during the holidays and whatnot. So, yeah, that's going to be the game plan. But yeah, boys and girls, I hope y'all have a lovely day.